Good afternoon, Shabbat Shalom. I wanted to get into Romans chapter 1 and then I'm going to read 16 and 17. Okay, so here we go. So, see where it says Romans 1 and we're at 16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. For in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last, just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. Let's go down to our study Bible area here. 16. Okay, so right here. We're right here. Okay. Or actually, the one before it, where it says, Paul was not ashamed. Okay, let's read that one first. Paul was not ashamed because his message was the gospel of Christ, the good news. It was a message of salvation. It had life-changing power, and it was for everyone. When you are tempted to be ashamed, remember what the good news is all about. If you focus on God and on what God is doing in the world rather than on your own inadequacy, you won't be ashamed or embarrassed. Okay, so underneath that one. So this one. Why did the message go to the Jews first? They had been God's special people for more than 2,000 years. Ever since God chose Abraham and promised great blessings to his descendants, and you can read that in Genesis 12 verses 1 to 3, God did not choose the Jews because they deserve to be chosen. And then you can check that out in Deuteronomy 7, 8, 9, 4 to 6. But because he wanted to show his love and mercy to them, teach them and prepare them to welcome his Messiah into the world. God chose them, not to play favorites, but so that they would tell the world about his plan of salvation. For centuries, the Jews had been learning about God by obeying his laws, keeping his feasts, and living according to his moral principles. Often they would forget God's promises and requirements. Often they would have to be disciplined, but still they had a precious heritage of belief in the one true God. Of all the people on earth, the Jews should have been the most ready to welcome the Messiah and to understand his mission and message. And some of them were, you could check that out in Luke chapter 2, 25, 36 and 38. Of course, the disciples and the great apostle Paul were, let's go over here, were faithful Jews who recognized in Jesus God's most precious gift of the human race. All right, the next one, it says, Jews and Christians alike stood against the idolatrous Roman religions, and Roman officials often confused the two groups. This was especially easy to do since the Christian church in Rome could have been originally composed of Jewish converts who had attended the Feast of Pentecost. You can see Acts chapter 2, verse 1. By the time Paul wrote this letter to the Romans, however, many Gentiles had joined the church. The Jews and Gentiles needed to know the relationship between Judaism and Christianity. Pretty cool, huh? So yeah, so that is in Romans chapter 1 and then verses 16 and 17 in my Life Application Study Bible, my NIV. So, I hope you like that verse. It's pretty nice for today. Okay, I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God. Amen. Amen. How many amens can I get? All right. Well, you all have a great weekend. God bless.